Hi, everybody. Good morning. Happy Thursday. I'm here this morning with Freddy van Rensburg, and
Hey,
we're going to be talking about the 12 steps and why I feel, and I think Freddy will agree, why everybody should be doing the 12 steps. So quickly, I'm just going to show you guys something really cool. Last week, I did a live video, and Freddie, I made this whole video. Apparently, you can share a video while in the video, and I made this amazing video, and I had tech problems, and then nobody could
oh
see it, and I
no.
was so upset. So I, I know it's so bad. So I'm going to try to share my screen here. I went to Freddie's page, and I
She
took
started stalking.
I stole one of your photos. So this is Freddie's book, Life Anon, a 12-step guide to life for non-addicts. Is it showing, Freddie?
Yeah, it is absolutely shame.
So it's working. Okay, cool. And let's just go here. Oh, my next page is not showing. Oh, there we go. Is it showing?
Yes,
Okay, perfect. Life Anon with
absolutely.
love from Freddie.
Yes.
So I'm now stop. There we go. So that worked. So exciting. I hate it if something doesn't work, especially when I put a lot of work and research into it and then it bombs. So I'm very happy. So just to let everybody know, Freddie wrote a book. This was a couple of years ago called The First Layer. And this is a 12-step workbook for addicts to work through the steps in 21 days. So me as an addict and alcoholic, this is my book. Yeah, and Freddie.
Yep, mine too.
Freddie, if you can just tell everybody a little bit about yourself so they know who you are.
Right, my name is Freddy van Rensburg. I am, first of all, a friend of Lynne's, and I'm very proud to say that. I'm also a recovering drug addict. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm also in recovery for sex addiction. I identify as a codependent, and most recently, I identify as an adult child of a dysfunctional family. Awesome place to hang out, Lynn. Nice, nice, nice. It's a beautiful, soft way to get in touch with our inner child, that little boy and girl that were injured at a young age. So
Perfect.
I've been in recovery now for just under 12 years, and in my clean time, I qualified as a what we call a specialist wellness counselor. I did that qualification through UNISA. I'm also registered as an addictions counselor, and I recently also qualified as a certified recovery coach.
Oh,
So that, yeah, yes. So that is the work that I do. Other than that, I write books. I've done two, and there's two in the pipeline. I'm busy working on two at the moment. And then I also host a podcast called Meet Me in the Field, where I speak with people about their spiritual journeys. Lynn's been on that, so you can go and look that up on any of the main what do you call it, podcast platforms or whatever. And I'm also, one of my most recent endeavors is I'm a director of a non-profit organization called Eyes to Eyes, where we try to help people with low vision to get their vision back. So busy life, but exciting life. I work for myself, so I do whatever I want when I want to
and
do it.
you've got no children, so you do whatever you
And
want when you want without distraction. You're a
I
cat.
am insulted that my four cats don't count as children.
I actually read a very hectic post on a website called Blunt Moms, where they basically rip into people that call themselves fur moms, and I'm like, shame. And you know what I think it is? I love my kids, but I think I'm jealous of fur moms. You just put the food out and you can just walk out the door, come back even the next day. Leave a window
Exactly.
open so you can go out to poop and
Yeah.
like so I think they
Yeah.
just jealous.
Yeah,
Anyway,
like I
I'm
woke up
very
at 5:30 this morning with this meow, but far off, and I couldn't figure out where it comes from. And I realized that my husband locked one of the cats in his office. So he was there the whole night. He must have been sleeping the whole night. So I only woke up this morning. So it was no big deal. No trauma. It's okay.
oh, well, if you do that to your kid, you're gonna have a problem.
Exactly. Then people,
anyway, I
then
just
people
wanted
like me
to,
make money moving forward.
yes, I forgot to say, everybody join in the discussion in the comments and you can win Freddie's book, Life Anon. It is a 12-step workbook for non-addicts. And Freddie, tell us a bit about the book. You said you wanted to read a little bit.
Yes. So the book, so when I came into recovery, what I discovered was one of the reasons why I engaged in anything that took me away from reality, drugs, alcohol, sex, you name it, was because I actually didn't know how to live life. I didn't understand the rules of life. It seemed as if everybody around me kind of managed to do this life thing. But I ended up just being extremely anxious and not knowing whether I was doing the right thing. I ended up wanting everybody to like me, became a complete people pleaser, became a perfectionist, and all things really, really didn't work for me. And eventually I just buckled under all the stress and all the tension of living life, and I started using to escape. And coming into recovery, sorry, I use the analogy in my book that it's as if everybody, when we get born, we allocated a guide to how to live life for dummies. And everybody around me merely opened their guides and they read their guides. And they understood their guides and they applied the principles of the guides. But I didn't. I couldn't. It doesn't matter how much I read my guide, I did not understand what it was saying. It was only coming to recovery when I realized that my guide was issued to me in Chinese. And I couldn't read Chinese. so, so, so then I started working the 12 steps, and the 12 steps for me became like the translator, like the guide of how to learn Chinese. And the more I worked the 12 steps, the more I understood life. And it dawned on me a few years clean that all these principles of how to live life that I've learned through the 12 steps are equally as applicable to normal people than they are to addicts. I mean, normal people also struggle with, like, a few of the things I name in my book that this book can help us with will be envy or jealousy, unmanageable anger, self-centeredness or selfishness, constant guilt or self-blame, believing you have to explain yourself or justify your actions, overthinking and analyze or analysis paralysis, continuous negative self-talk or negative thinking. I mean, who doesn't engage in that? Impatience, distrust or dislike of others, or trusting people too easily. The counter side of that, unjustified superiority or judgmentalism, difficulty in asking for help, lack of motivation and constant procrastination, insecurity at home, work, and socially, insincerity and lack of integrity, gossiping and bad mouthing of others, or greed. So those are normal things that all of us struggle with. And very often we get into bed feeling guilty and ashamed because we engaged in one of those behaviors during the day, but we don't know how to stop. We don't know that we can be different. And what Life Anon does is it takes you through 12 steps and say, right, if you do the following, then we can actually help you to see that you don't have to act out in jealousy, that you can actually stand in full trust of yourself and of other people. And that is the journey that Life Anon will take you on.
Fantastic, Freddie. And I think I was born like you. I didn't come with knowing what to do or knowing how to figure it all out. There was something not quite right with me. Nothing fit properly together. And it seemed like everybody else was kind of, doing what they should be doing. I just want to address a little issue. So apparently I said Happy Friday. So I would just like to say, Violet, yeah, I know it's Thursday. When I said Friday, in my brain, I said Thursday. Rashan is getting excited. She's asking, is it Friday? Friday Eve. And there's somebody else that asked, what was it? She might be in a different time zone.
Okay, I am willing to verify everybody's confusion. It is Thursday today, Thursday the 30th of September in the year of our Lord, 2021. Is that where we are?
I would like to just
So welcome everybody. And now I can see these people. I clicked on the comments. Now I see these people. For a while I thought, oh my God, I'm talking to myself. But, but that's also okay,
defense, I usually do my lives on a Friday, so I'm used to saying Happy Friday. Yeah, I usually do my lives on a Friday, but I swapped it up because I'm doing a behind the scenes with SA bloggers every Friday now, and I don't know, I might be kind of scaling down my themed live videos. I don't know. I'm going to see where it takes me, but yeah, no, they're laughing at us. Blondes. No, it's not you, it's me. I said Friday. I admit it. I will own it. Okay. So, yeah, Freddie, I mean, you basically summed up why everybody should be doing the 12 steps. But, from my side, I think people have a very interesting perception of the 12 steps. I think in all the movies you hear, like the 12 steps, alcoholics, AA. And I think people very quickly associate the 12 steps with addiction, with alcoholism, and then they don't, there's the stigma attached to mental health and to being an alcoholic and being an addict. So, I think, what do you say about that, where people are like, oh, I'm not going to do the 12 steps because I'm not an addict?
It's interesting. So I brought out the book, first calling it Life Anon, a 12-step guide to life for non-addicts. Then a friend of mine said, he thinks it's just a 12-step guide for non-addicts. Why the to life? So I changed the front cover. Now I've employed a PR company to help me to market the book and to brand the book. And they said to me, why do you have the word non-addicts on the front cover? The word addict, there's such a negative connotation that a lot of people will look at the cover and think, even though I'm a non-addict, just the fact that there's the word addict on the front cover will put people off. So now I'm rebranding it again. So it's now becoming Life Anon, a 12-step guide to life. So that reminds me, I had a call from the printers while I was flossing this morning. So I need to, I said to the guy, excuse me, but I'm busy flossing, but talk, I'm listening.
So that's interesting. You're actually rebranding the whole thing now.
Yeah. Yeah, the new front page and the new inner page is with the printers at the moment. So I'm giving a whole lot of book backs, and they're going to take the cover off and put a new cover on, because there is such a stigma attached to the term addict. It brings up such fear. And Lynne, if I have my will, talk about addiction, alcoholism, any form of addiction, any form of mental health, anxiety, depression, ADHD, ADD, these should become dinner table talk. These are things that people should be talking about on a regular basis because they are real. We can't ignore the fact that these real things are between us. We always talk about Tanisari on the corner who has problems with water retention, and Jan three houses down the line who had a back operation. Those are normal illnesses. Mental health are normal illnesses. We need to break the stigma. We need to talk about this stuff. I don't know about you, but the day I asked for help for my addiction, we didn't know what the next step was. So now I've acknowledged I need help. But what now? We eventually made an appointment with my doctor and said, okay, well, there's somebody who should know. He didn't know. He looked at me and said, well, I suppose you'll have to go to rehab. I said, well, where do I go? Said, I don't know. It's just not stuff that people talk about. I think an incredible part of our journey in life is the concept of I don't know if you or your readers have ever run into a lady called Brené Brown. She talks about vulnerability. Oh, she's an amazing woman. Go onto her YouTube channel, Brené Brown. It's that vulnerability of us arriving the way we truly are. When somebody asks you how you're doing, to actually be honest and say, I'm struggling a bit with anxiety this morning. Or I'm really well, but I'm a bit concerned about my husband because he's working too hard. Those type of things. We don't have to become moaners. We don't have to become the stone around our friend's ankle. But I think it's important for us to arrive authentically with who we really are, instead of putting this mask on our faces saying, I'm awesome. Meanwhile, you're really struggling. And that's something that entering fellowships like Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous taught us. I don't know about you, but I walked out of a meeting one day, in a meeting, and I was going outside to smoke, and somebody was walking in, and I was very new in recovery. And as I walked past, he said, hey, how are you? And I kind of in the pause said, well, thanks, and I kept on walking. And from a corner of my eye, I saw he went to stand still, and he's looking at me. And I stopped and I said, what? He said, are you really well? And I kind of, well, right. And I suddenly realized that in this space, in that space of fellowships, of support groups, people care. They want to know how you are. The word fine, thanks doesn't stand. I want to know how you are. So that was where I learned to actually, how are you is not a rhetorical question. How are you is an inquisitive, is a compassionate inquiry on how are you doing. And fine, as we all know, stands for fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. So fine doesn't count.
When someone asks you in rehab, how are you? Do not say fine, because the focus will be on you, and they're not going to let it go. It's like a dog with a bone. You're going to let it
Exactly.
Don't say fine in therapy. Never, ever, ever say fine.
No. And fine is also not an emotion. I want to know how you're feeling. That's the important thing. So I try to really be authentic with my friends. Since then, is how you're doing. I'm actually doing well. And also an important thing, Lynn, and that's also what Life Anon teaches us, is that what a lot of us tend to do, and something that feeds mental health is I'm well, but I have a headache, or I'm well, but my child is struggling with bullying at school. So what a lot of us do is, morning, Lynn, how are you doing? Oh, I'm terrible. Why? What's wrong? My son's being bullied at school. Is that really true? Are you terrible because your son is being bullied at school? Or are you actually okay? You've got food on your table, you've got a job, you've got a loving family, a loving husband who's supporting whatever you've got all those things. But it's really unfortunate that my son is being bullied at school. We tend to take this one negative aspect of our lives and collapse that whole thing and make that a whole life. And that's not true. I'm actually doing well, but I'm struggling with my son being bullied at school. It's a very, very big difference. So we can arrive authentically is, I'm well, but I'm struggling with this one or two aspects of my life.
I love that, Freddie. And I think one thing that I would like to just kind of address now, and it's kind of an interesting topic to me, it is that I have a lot of people come to me and say, oh, you're an addict. Oh, Shane, that must be so hard. Oh, it must be so hard to have stayed away from drugs and alcohol for 13 years. And I had somebody ask me once, if you had a choice, if you could just wave a wand and make yourself not an addict, would you do it? And no, actually, I wouldn't.
No,
and
neither would I.
It may sound really, really strange, but one thing we're taught in recovery is to always look for the gift in things. And one of the gifts I've been given in recovery is the 12 steps. So I know it's going to sound really weird. Now, I've had some really awful experiences in my life. I've also had some really interesting experiences, and I've had some wild parties. I can tell you there's some stuff that I've done. I'm not going to say it out loud because my mom's watching, but you know.
Hello, Mom. Close your ears for a second.
I've had a very full life in a very short space of time, and it's been lots of stuff. But what I've been given now is Rehab, I actually loved rehab. It was
Me too.
scary. It was hard in the beginning, but once I got into the process, it was the most amazing process. It's like a caterpillar going into a cocoon and completely.
Oh,
Do they go into like liquid, and then it comes out as a butterfly? And I really
mm,
felt that and your recovery process is not done the second you walk out of rehab. In fact, it's just beginning.
yeah.
Um, and I found that through the 12 steps and through continually working on myself, I've been able to grow as a person on a continual basis. So for the last 13 years, it's been this non-stop growth process that I never
Oh,
understood it would be like that. I thought that you do your change in rehab, maybe for a couple of months, you know, there's a bit of change, you get your 1 year keyring and you're like, whoa, I'm a new person and I've made it. It's not like that. I have continually changed and metamorphosized as I've gone along. And the beautiful thing
mm,
about the 12 steps, and I think this is what people also fear as well, but I kind of like it, is I'm able to, at the end of every day, look at my day, look at what I've done, look at what's happened, and say, "Ooh, I like this, I like this, I like this. I should do more of that. Ooh, Lynn, you didn't do so lekker there. You were a bit of a bitch.
mm.
You need to go back. You need to fix that. No, you need to change that. And you need to not be a cow to people." And
Exactly.
then
Yeah.
I decide consciously to make that change. And I think I'm not going to diss anybody here, but I think a lot of people, most people on the face of the earth, I think, live with kind of blinkers on. And it's not a fault, but I think a lot of people don't see the big picture on what you can do and see your blind spots and what you're not so good at and what you really need to improve. And the process of working through the 12 steps shows you how to open yourself up and how to change as a person in the way that you want to.
Absolutely. Um, one thing that's really interesting, Lynn, is you said so much in that sentence, but the one thing that rehab for me is what I realized was I never felt safe. So
Yes.
when those gates of the rehab facility closed behind me, I'm safe. For the first time in my life at 42, 43, when I went into rehab, I felt safe. And it's something that so many people struggle with. I get person after person after person after person contacting me and saying, I am anxious. And I listen to the history, and no wonder you're anxious. I had one client who, his father, he was in boarding school, and his father was supposed to pick him up every weekend because his mother was in Botswana. His father got a girlfriend and kept on forgetting to pick him up.
Oh,
He would start hoarding food. Now he's in primary school, he's grade 2, 3, 4. He would start hoarding food during the week so that he could hide on Friday afternoons and then spend the whole weekend in the hostel and at least have food to eat because
shame.
they weren't allowed to be in the hostel over weekends. Now that adult man arrives in my office and say, I'm anxious. And I said to him, well, of course you're anxious because your whole belief system was that the world's not safe. I'm not being looked after. I'm not being cared for. Why would you feel safe? So by working through the process of the 12 steps, we will look at our anxiety and say, okay, fine. Um, what what is anxiety doing in my life? Kind of in what way am I powerless over it? And that will bring you to why am I feeling anxious? I'm feeling anxious because I believe the world is unsafe. So every time I expect somebody to arrive, or I expect I have an appointment, your history shows you that the person is not going to show up. So of course you're going to have trust issues. You can't walk out your front door because you don't know how people are going to react. Nobody's going to be the way they set up because your father, your primary caregiver, didn't arrive for you the way that you are supposed to. So we look at, I'll use anxiety as an example. So we look at in what way am I powerless over it, what caused it, and then we look at how does it make my life unmanageable? In what way does anxiety stop me from showing up fully for life? because that's a big thing that happens in our lives is we have trust issues. We have difficulty asking for help. We overthink stuff. In all those things, what happens is those behaviors are withholding us from living a full life. So in step one, you will look at kind of, okay, so I may have a bit of this, but once you start investigating it, you see, oh my word, I can actually have so much of a better life if I can let this behavioral issue go. And the 12 steps will take you through that process of letting that issue go. And so often then is that the drama started in our childhood. And I'm not saying that what we're going to do is we're going to blame our parents. Oh, word. What we're going to do is we're going to see in what way our parents made a mistake, how they still did the best with what they had to their disposal, and how we can actually get to a place of forgiving them and living forward in love and compassion and forgiveness, and having resolved the issue that we're struggling with because of the mistakes they made. Oh God, I love blaming my parents. It was just the easiest thing in the whole world. Blame them.
But
Just play the blame game, play the victim game, and stay not engaging in life.
but you see, Freddie, now when you said blame your parents, like the immediate thing that came into my mind now is mom guilt. Because I'm a mother and I'm like,
Yes.
what now? And I think what's really important here is that, as parents, as mothers, as most of us are the number one caregivers, we're the ones there day in, day out. Often the dad's at work, we're doing the homework, we're often doing the bedtimes, that sort of thing. And I think what concerns me is that, and I mean, if you're looking at a therapy side of it and mental health, there's the cycle. So your parents do something, it affects us. We have all this anxiety, we have all this baggage and all of that. And then we act out in certain ways and we're a mother. And how does that impact our children? And the cycle continues. When we take a step back, we look at ourselves and we get really honest with it and we put in the work and we do the 12 steps, we are breaking that cycle.
Absolutely.
And we are showing our children what the rule book is on how to behave and how to cope in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And for me, this is something that is really important because, I mean, if I look at the way that the methods I use to cope, especially back in addiction, and even now, it's a constant work in progress, and I find myself slipping, and that's why I've got to keep at it. And I see the way that I'm doing things wrong, and then I hear something come out of my child's mouth, and I'm like, oh, I recognize that. That came out of my mouth. And it's, it's about recognizing that. And instead of trying to I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear that or see that, looking at it and saying, okay, so I've got to change this here and help break the cycle for my children.
Lynn, that belief system that I can't, that is such an intergenerational belief system that we carry with us. That low self-esteem belief system. We often look at our children and we think it will be so nice if they could have a lovely self-esteem. But children learn how? Through mirroring. If you as a parent mirror a low self-esteem to your child, where is he going to learn to have a healthy self-esteem? You can tell your child often and often, I love you, I care for you, you're awesome, you've got this, you whatever. But if you live by, I'm afraid, I don't have this, I can't stand up for myself, your child's not going to believe it, because what he sees is something different than what he's saying. So we need to go through a process to see, why do I have a low self-esteem? And invariably it is from your grandmother didn't have one, she didn't teach your mother to have one, your mother didn't teach you to have one. So we need to go inside ourselves and we have to find that esteem, because what so many of us do, if we try to get self-esteem by getting what I call another esteem or an other esteem. We think one more certificate on my wall will make me feel good enough. One more medal in my cupboard will make me believe I'm good enough. One more person to love me will make me feel enough. One more course. Let's just roll for one more course before I actually start doing this job. Bullshit. You've done enough. You know, get off your ass and do the job that you're trained for. Because so many of us are actually qualified as something. I did the odd web designing course or dress designing course or fashion course or whatever. But I don't want to do it because I'm too afraid.
Yeah.
But you've got the certificate to prove you can do it. You've got the piece of paper to show. So it's now time to show up and let go of this belief that I can't. And once I started looking at why do I believe I can't, I realized that it's because I wasn't mirrored that I can. But it's my responsibility to then go through the 12 steps on why do I believe I can't. I need to believe I can. And that, just for interest sake, is step 2 and 3 of the 12 steps. And that's something that freaks a lot of people out, because in step 2, what step 2 says is we came to leave the power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And that freaks people out because they always say that I'm not mad. But that's not the sanity that we're talking about. The sanity we're talking about is the idea, is that false belief that I can't. It's insane to think you can't when you can. That's the insanity.
I think, Freddie, you know about the story about the lamb and cutting the piece off.
Yes, I
So I
love
don't know
that.
if you've heard this. And so this is how it goes: is that the mom is in the kitchen, she's busy making a roast lamb, and she cuts it a piece off and she puts it in the pan. And the kid says, "Mom, why do you do that?" She says, "Well, I don't know why. My mother does it." So she phones her mom. She says, "Why do you do it?" "Well, I don't know. My mother did it." And it turns out generations back, one of the great grandmothers, her pan was small. So every time she made a roast lamb, she had to cut a piece of the lamb off to fit it in the pan. But then every one down the generations is cutting off a piece of lamb no matter what size their pan is. And I think this is really important. You just do what your mother does. And,
Yeah.
you know, it might be a completely crazy reason for it, or, you know, completely not needed, like that story. And I think that just highlights how it goes down the generations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we truly have to, if there's something in our lives that doesn't work for us, it's our responsibility to stop that. We are the generation of, we need to stop this. I don't want my children to grow up believing they can't. I don't want my child believing that they have to throw away half the lamb. At a huge cost with what lamb costs these days. You definitely don't want to discard any piece of.
Exactly. The cost of a piece like this is like $100.
As if I know I don't eat meat, but anyway, I hear that people complain about the cost of meat. But really, we see how certain behavior patterns just don't serve us, and we can come to believe that I can do things differently. That's step 2, and then in step 3 is okay. So I believe I can't. So how can I? And invariably, what we're saying in the steps: find a sense of spirituality. Find a sense of a belief that there's something bigger than me out there. And you will see I shot my eye to the right because I've got a small window there. And out of that window, all I see is blue sky and branches with leaves on. And my higher power, the power that I tap into to give me the belief system that I can, is Mother Nature. She's the ultimate power for me. She's the ultimate balance in life. So I look there because Mother Nature is there, and through a window there, I see my neighbor's bird feeder. And there's a lot of birds coming to. So that's my connection. That's my belief that I can't.
That's
You wanted to
beautiful.
say something?
And I love working where I sit right here, because out that window, I mean, it's a couple of steps onto the beach. So for
Wow.
me, it's absolutely.
Lucky fish.
Yeah, I just wanted to grab some comments here. We've got Kuresha, I hope I'm saying that right, Kutsia, that would love to read this book to get her life back on track. And she feels like she's drowning in life lately. So I think from my side, I was just chatting to Freddie before we went live. He said, "How are you?" I'm like, it's been a rough pandemic because, and there's so much that's going on. And I think a lot of us, whether we are working on the 12 steps or not, are very much feeling like we're drowning in life. It's just the state of the world at the moment. So, and I know what it's felt like most of my life to feel like I'm drowning. So I can relate to that.
Yes, and thanks for sharing it. Thanks for arriving in this space vulnerable and authentic. That's lovely. Thank you very much. And just to talk a little bit more about the steps is what we do next. Now that we've seen how this behavior kind of doesn't suit us, and we now have the belief that we can change that behavior. Now we go and analyze. We go and really scratch around and see what is it that's causing me to not live my life to the full. We call this, I take a fearless and moral inventory of myself, and not of other people, not of my parents, of me. I look where I need to change. And in step 5, we take all that information that we've gathered in step 4 and we collate it into nice little patterns. So at the end of step 5, we can clearly see the problem behaviors for me are: I don't believe in myself. I'm jealous, which invariably is because I don't believe in myself. So therefore, I see everybody else as a threat. And I'm judgmental. So those are the 3 things that I need to work on in my life to have a better life. So you wanted to bring another concept up before we go on with the steps? Or another comment?
I just wanted to Candace here saying that they struggle in their family because there's lots of family members that have addictions, and they've sent them to rehab a number of times with no change.
Oh, Candace.
And I think addiction is a lot more widespread than people think. There's so much stigma attached to it, but every family has an addict of 5, like mine.
Yeah. Candace, if I can just mention something there, there's normally one of 2 reasons, or maybe both reasons, why people go to rehab often and they come back and what we could call it not getting it. And those 2 reasons are invariably that, number 1, there is something that we call a coexisting condition. So they may be using drugs or alcohol or whatever it is, but with that, they're actually depressed, they're anxious, they suffer from ADHD, they might be bipolar or borderline personality disorder or schizophrenic or anything. But we're not picking up the true mental health issue. So we're actually treating the wrong thing. And we need to treat the coexisting condition with the addiction together, and then the potential for a positive outcome is better. That's the one. And the other one is that we're treating the wrong addiction. Because what very often happens is somebody uses drugs or alcohol, but they also have a sex addiction. They also have a problem with food. They also have a problem with their screen. They spend far too much time in front of their screen. So we need to actually treat the correct addiction. Once we start treating the right addiction, the reason why they use the drugs and alcohol will go away. So we need to look at the process addictions. Invariably, the process addiction turns out to be the major addiction. That's just a sidebar away from.
I like to look at it and compare addiction to diabetes.
Absolutely.
For a number of reasons. And taking somebody and keeping them away from drugs, it's kind of like giving somebody insulin when they got diabetes. It's not solving the problem. It's not looking at the real issue. That person needs to change their diet. They need to exercise. They need to stay away from certain foods. They need to monitor themselves. They need to get checked up regularly by the doctor. You got to test your blood. And yes, sometimes you're going to need insulin, but in conjunction with all of the other things. And what people often say to me is, oh, you haven't had a drink or drug for 13 years. You're cured. I'm not cured. I can't. It's like saying to a diabetic, okay, so you haven't had a problem with your blood sugar levels for 5 years. Here's a spoon with a cup of sugar. Eat that. What are you going to do? You're going to kill yourself. I can't touch drugs and alcohol. And I think, but mental health, it's very much like that. You can't just taking medication just kind of slaps a bandage on it. You need to really, if you want to recover and if you want to be happy, You need to get into that stuff. And I
It's
think
a design for living program. We
yes.
need to get the design and apply the design. It's like having your winning the lotto and getting an interior decorator in to come and redecorate your house. But if you're not going to keep your house neat and tidy, it's going to look like shit. And that's exactly what the 12 steps are. It doesn't help that we work through the steps once and then let everything that we were taught go. Our lives are going to turn out to be a complete load of crap. We need to keep on applying those principles on a daily basis. So we need to practice, and that's what the step 12 says. We practice these principles in all our affairs daily.
Exactly. Another analogy that would make my husband proud is a car analogy. So I look at my mental health like a car. I don't wait until the wheel falls off. Oh crap! I need a wheel.
Exactly.
You service your car. You put petrol in. You check your tires. You replace the oil. You make sure there's water. You clean your car. You do everything. I don't clean my car often, but you should. So it's basically like a car. You don't wait until your car breaks down and there's it's on fire.
Exactly.
Like, oh, now I should replace the something in the car. You
I
go
should
and
check the oil.
regular services, and your mental health should be the same.
Absolutely.
Just got Caitlin over here saying she doesn't want to get too deep, but with everything that's going on around her, this could be something that helps her figure it out. Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree.
Caitlin, that's very, very true. This is such an amazing journey. It's not a once-off event. It's a journey that I take people on through this path. And the really nice thing is, and I want to mention this to you as well, Lynne, is one thing that happens very often is we were in therapy years ago and we dealt with my resentment towards my mother. And then suddenly one day I realized I'm still so angry at her. I would just go stab her and eye out if I see her. And then I think, but why? I've dealt with this in therapy. Here's why. So my hand is a let's do it this way. Yeah. My hand is an onion and the pen is the resentment. So now you go to treatment and you deal with the resentment. So now the resentment's still there. You've dealt with it on this level. But as we grow in our lives and as we mature and whatever, we peel the layers off. The resentment doesn't go away. The next time you feel the resentment, you just deal with it at another level. So now you work through Life Anon. And okay, now the resentment is far better. But in 2 years' time, you might think, oh, damn it, the resentment's back. Yes, you've grown. You're now looking at it at a new level. Peel another level of the onion off. Let's look at it again. So the issue doesn't go away. We just get better and better at dealing with it. And as we reach the growth phases in our life, it will come back to us so that we can deal with it at that level. So I always say that the 12 steps don't change. We can work through this book literally every year or every second year of our lives. The questions stay the same, but the answers change because we change. So it doesn't get boring because we keep on changing.
I definitely found that myself. And here's something interesting about resentments. And I found this, I think about the second or third time I worked through the steps, is that my deepest resentments are actually, yes, someone else did something nasty to me, but it's usually when I behaved in such a way in response to what happened to me that I'm ashamed about. And that is actually what really stuck with me deep down. It wasn't what the other person did. It's the way that I behaved in response to, or it's something I did to that person first that made them respond and react in the way that damaged me. So in fact, my deepest resentments were my own damn fault. And that was an eye-opener of note.
Yes, and that's that's the most important premise of this book, because what I'm hearing you saying is something would happen and you would react in a certain way. So what Life Anon teaches us is something, the same thing will happen. But because I've dealt with a lot of issues in my life, and I've dealt with my resentments, I've dealt with my guilt and my shame and my bad relationships and all those type of things. When that thing happens, I can assess where I am with it and make an approach and respond appropriately. So the whole Life Anon journey is move away from reaction to response. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
Because what happens is,
be a big girl.
Did I mention that research has shown that the way we look at life, our whole kind of picture of life is developed between conception and the ages of 5 and maybe to 7. So that first 5 to 7 years of our lives are incredibly important. And the rest of our lives we spend trying to undo all those belief systems and the way we look at life. So the whole way we react to life will be how we were taught or how we looked at life in the first 5 to 7 years. That afraid boy that my father's not going to come and pick me up. So therefore I can't trust people. Life Anon, so therefore I react with distrust. I react with fear. But Life Anon will help you to process what happened. So now you can, I need to go out the house. I don't trust people. But wait, no, I can. That was then. I can now respond appropriately. So we will help you to kind of take the glasses off, the wrong glasses, and put the right glasses on.
Beautifully said.
So we change your glasses.
We've got Rashan here asking, saying she'd really love your book. If she doesn't win this one, where can she purchase it? Go, Freddie.
You can, there's a copy on Amazon, so on Amazon.com, but that will come from America. But you can also order from me directly in my shop, which is www.freddyshop, Freddy with an IE. Is there a way that I can write a comment? freddyshop.co.za.
I can. Oops, no, I can't reply right here in the things. But what I'll do is at the end of the video, I'll come and reply to the comments and add a link in there. I'll also be writing a blog post. I'm very slow lately. Thanks, pandemic. But I will add links to everything within there. Also, just take note that in my live video tomorrow, sneak preview, I'm also going to be giving away another book tomorrow. So if you don't win today, come back tomorrow, then buy if you don't win. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's Freddy Shop, www.freddyshop.co.za. Yeah, there are even ebook versions of it available. Yeah, so go and browse around there. There's some stuff.
Well, and also on the note of the IE and the Y, I'd like to say I take no responsibility for any spelling mistakes, because in some places you have a Y and some places you have an IE. So that's on you if people can't find you. I just want to make
you're actually bringing up something really interesting. So just to show you what Life Anon, what the principles of the 12 steps did for me. So I grew up Freddy van Rensburg, Johannes Frederik Joshua Jansen van Rensburg, as Afrikaans as you can get. But then the late 80s, the early 90s happened, and I went into this complete Afrikaans guilt thing. So I changed the spelling of my name, Freddy, so that it sounds more English, so that people can't identify me necessarily as Afrikaans. And then coming into recovery, my sponsor once said to me, "Why do you spell your name with a Y and I spell it with an IE?" I said, "Well, I don't know." He said, "Well, you're Freddy, you're Afrikaans, that's an IE. So I think it's time that you arrive authentically in life." So when I, for instance, set up
your authentic spelling is IE.
My authentic spelling is I'm Afrikaans. There's no reason for me to feel guilty about the fact that I'm Afrikaans. My authentic
there isn't, but I think you must take the step and go to your Facebook profile and change it to an IE as well, so that everything is congruent.
Exactly,
because every time I do a video, I'm like IEY. It's IE on your book, it's IE somewhere else, and on your Facebook profile it's a Y. And I'm like, it's not my fault.
On today's to-do list, change Facebook profile. Because I actually
And
figured out
from
how
then
to do it.
on, I would go IE, always, I
I
promise.
never knew how to do it. So my Facebook profile was set up when I was still in my Afrikaans guilt phase, and then I grew out of it. Then I learned how to show up authentically. So my reaction to life would be to feel guilty about what my forefathers did. Through working a process of recovery, I see that I'm not responsible for what they did. I can just change what I can change in that regard. So I can now arrive authentically with an IE in my name. But that was part of my life journey.
Yeah, Candace, this is a very, very interesting topic. It's not as easy as everyone thinks. It's really hard to change someone that doesn't want the help and rejects everything you try do for them. So, and I mean, when you're looking at anybody, you're looking at addicts, or you're looking at someone with a mental health issue. If they're not addressing the issue, there's not much you can do. The advice that I have is change the way that you behave, and possibly through that, the other people may change. And it's about keeping up your own boundaries and making sure that they are firm, but it's not a wall, it's a boundary. So it keeps you safe, it keeps them safe, but it can be crossed if, well, not crossing boundaries sounds like a bad thing, but it can be, what's a way of saying it, Freddie?
I think of it as there's a beautiful poem called Mending Walls, where they talk about good fences make good neighbors, good boundaries between people allow good relationships. So you use an interesting term that you said, to change someone. We're never going to change someone unless they want to be changed. What we can change, and that's exactly what Lynne said, is the way we respond to that person. Now, our normally response is by reacting. You want to react by saving them, by changing them, by rescuing, by whatever. But what's a far healthier way is to see, how is this person's life affecting me, affecting my mental health? And then go and say, so in order for me to have better mental health around this person's behavior, is to only see this person once a week instead of once a day. If your mom triggers you into anger and depression, why call her every day? Stop calling her every day. And that's something I ask a lot of my clients. Is kind of, I can't deal with my mom, so how often do you have contact with her? Oh, I have to call her every day. Why? Because if I don't call her every day, she moans. So let her moan. You need to do the healthy thing for your mental health. If that's giving your mom a call once a week for half an hour or 20 minutes, do that. It's so important to see what decisions we make on a daily basis and whether those decisions are good for our mental health or bad for us, actually. And if they're bad for us, change it. People can't make us do things.
Exactly.
We choose to do.
Exactly, 100%. And I can say, that rescuing behavior, and I mean, there's support in the right way, and then there's bailing somebody out. And if you are constantly bailing somebody out and you keep paying for their rehab and they keep relapsing and you keep paying, maybe you should stop paying. And maybe you should stop sending them to rehab and say, look, you're on your own. If you've got to sink or swim, buddy. And you'll be surprised how many people will swim when they're told sink or swim. You're on your own. And it's not saying I don't love you and I'm never going to see you. It's saying I refuse to pay anymore. I refuse to jump up every time you say you want to go to rehab, drive through in the middle of the night, drop everything, send my kids to somebody else to come and bail you out, but they do it once a month. Say, well, I'm not prepared to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning today.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen anymore.
Well, thank you for the call. I'll pick up tomorrow morning at 9. And if they want to get high between now and tomorrow morning at 9, it's not your responsibility. You arrive at 9. If they're there, they're not, they're not. It's their responsibility. We tend to take responsibility for other people's lives so easily, while we actually struggle to show up for ourselves on a daily basis. I love the analogy of if you fly somewhere and they have the safety what do you call it, safety regulations that they show in front of the plane. One of the things they say is when there's a cabin pressure fall, there will be an oxygen mask. I normally call it a gas mask. There will be an oxygen mask falling out of the container above you. Please put your own oxygen mask on first, and then help the older person or the children. And that's an analogy for life. We can't help other people while we're drowning. We need to make sure that we swim, that we're strong, that we're okay, because then we can help somebody else.
I think that's really
really,
important.
really important.
And I think as moms, and here's an interesting thing, there's also going to be a giveaway tomorrow for a course by a mom, Cheryl Swartz, and she's created this course on how to ditch the mom guilt. Like, hello, I could have done with that about 2-3 years ago. That would have been a lifesaver for me. It's been a process, and I've kind of figured it out along the way myself. But talking about the oxygen mask, I think, and this is something that I've actually stopped taking on sponsees for addiction. So in recovery, what happens is you do the 12 steps, and once you finish the 12 steps, you work initially with your sponsor through the 12 steps. And then when you've done that, your sponsor says, now you must get a sponsee and you must work with them through the 12 steps. So in early recovery, at some stage, I had up to 5 sponsees, and I was always doing stuff with them. And I still get a lot of rehabs phoning me because I'm in the West Coast. It's not much, especially female sponsors here on the West Coast. And often people in the rehab phone me. They say, listen, someone's coming out of rehab. They live in the West Coast. Can they touch base with you? Can you help them find a meeting and all of this? And I'm like, cool, yeah, I'll do that. And they come here, and I am the first point of contact, and I divert them. There's a meeting. There's a phone number. You go here on the Wednesday. You go here on a Monday. Good luck. And I actually had somebody get quite, not aggressive with me, but very mislik, saying that she wants me to sponsor her. And I said, well, unfortunately, I don't do that, because I'm at a stage in my life where I've got young children, I've got my business, I've only got so much energy, and quite frankly, it's not stretching enough for me and my own family. And I'm sorry, I'm not taking on sponsees.
You're putting on your own oxygen mask.
I share on my blog. I will be a point of contact. And she said, oh, but that's not fair. You are selfish because you won't sponsor me. And I said, no, I've gotten up, I've fetched you from here, I took you to a meeting, I've given you all the phone numbers. And I think it's important to say to yourself, well, this is all I have. And I'm a mom, and I'm going to give what I have to myself and my family. There is nothing wrong with putting on that boundary and saying, no thanks, people. This is it. This is what I'm prepared to give. No more. And, as a mom, I found, like, when you're sponsoring someone that's very new in recovery, there's a lot of drama. And I just can't handle it anymore. I'm sorry. It's like, I just don't have the strength, and it's fine that I don't have the strength.
Exactly.
So, and I think as a mom, if you get sucked into all your family drama, and your brother and your sister and your best friend, and this is going on and that's going on, so-and-so's fighting with so-and-so, I have found it's been so helpful to just pull myself back to my own family unit and say, this is my priority. If I have any other energy or time or willpower left, I can extend but this wide, and I think, Candace, you said you can't change anybody, and it's taking so much out of you. And there was somebody, I think it might have been you, saying that you've put some, family members through rehab so often. It's tiring. I know it's so tiring dealing with addicts. So I'm not going to cut them completely out, but make a decision of what can I give and what can't I give. And if I give this, who's going to actually pay the price for that? Is it going to be my 7-year-old? Is it going to be my 9-year-old? Is it going to be my husband? And, you really need to take a deep look at that. And I found, for me, that's been really important. And I've got very strict boundaries now on, how I will let my work encroach on my family life, how I will let my recovery life encroach, and I keep it nice and tight. And if I have any other available energy, then sure, I'll do it. But I try to keep as much drama as possible out of my life, and it has benefited me so much. It's so amazing.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important, Lynne, for us to realize that self-care is not selfish. If you make an appointment with yourself and say, I'm putting an hour out on Saturday afternoon for me to lie on the couch and do my toenails, then that's a date you've made with yourself. If a friend calls and says, let's go and coffee, or mom calls and says, I have a headache, go buy headache tablets. I'll do that, mom, but I've got an appointment. I'll do it after my appointment. An appointment with self is as important as an appointment with anybody else. Why would you won't cancel a coffee date with a friend? Why cancel an appointment with yourself?
Very well said.
Yeah.
And I think also, as the mothers,
nothing selfish about self-care.
As the mothers, I feel that I've got the responsibility of my whole family on my shoulders. I'm the one that makes the lunches. I'm the one that makes the suppers. I'm the one that tidy up. I'm the one that makes sure that routine is done. I do the homework with my kids. It's not that my husband's lazy. He's just not here. He's at work. So I buy all the food. I'm the one that makes sure that everybody eats properly and that the food is on time and the bath is there and the toothpaste is in the bathroom and there's toilet paper in the bathroom. It's a lot of work. And I need the energy to be able to do that. So if I need to go and have a bubble bath at 10 o'clock in the morning, I do that now. And I always just, I shouldn't take time off now. I should fit in at the end of the day. I mean, I'll go to bed stinky and dirty if I leave it till the end of the day because I've got no energy left. I need to fill my cup first, and I've got to make sure that in the morning I do certain things so that I've got the energy, I've got the positivity for myself. And I think that's something very much that the 12 steps has taught me. I've got to fill my own cup, and I've got to look after my well-being as the main caregiver of my family. And then that everybody will be happier.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't try and pour from an empty cup. Don't try to give energy if you don't have energy to give. You can't. It's not there. We don't have an infinite amount of energy and emotional resources. We have to be careful where we spend it. Spend it with people who appreciate it. Spend it with people who give back. Spend it with people who help to fill up your tank.
That's a biggie, Freddie. And I think, that's, and this has been part of the process that I've been working on over the years, is that in addiction, all of my friendships were highly unhealthy. Lots of drama, lots of selfishness from everybody. I wasn't a good friend, and the people that I was with were not good friends. And it's taken me a long time to figure out. And I have, and I think Natasha from Fit Like Mummy said, we touched on this at some stage, is that my friendships are a two-way street now. And it's not always necessarily 100% equal. It's not about that. Sometimes I might need a lot from my friend, and I don't give anything back. But there comes a time where the wheels turn, and I support, and I think it's really important to do that. So, when there's somebody in your life that is sucking out your soul and they never, ever, ever give back, you need to put some boundaries up there. And it's not that, even if it's your brother or sister, it's not that you don't love them, but you can't just pour out the whole time. It just doesn't work. It's damaging. And it's not going to help that person in your family anyway.
No, there's absolutely nothing wrong to say, I love you, but I love myself more. We need to love ourselves. Oscar Wilde said, to love yourself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. We really, really need to love ourselves. And a lot of times what we need to do is we need to question is, why do I always get involved in the family drama, in the friendship crises? And invariably the answer is that I believe that I'm needed. And that belief that I'm needed is to feed my low self-esteem. So what we need to do is show up for ourselves. And then we don't have to show up that much for other people.
I've got Kuresha Kutsia saying she's guilty of this. She always puts herself last. And one thing my mother always tells me is, put yourself first. She says, always put yourself first. She said, because if you don't put yourself first, you cannot look after anybody else. She said, putting yourself first is putting your family first. You really need to get into that mindset of thinking, I'm being selfish. I'm not looking after everybody else, and switch that to, if I look after myself, I'm looking after my family. If you are a happy mom, if you are a fulfilled mom, you will be a better mom. Fact.
Yeah. Something that the 12 steps are really excellent with is to let us go of guilt and shame.
Oh, yes.
We show up so often with so much guilt and so much shame. We allow somebody to take advantage of us because we feel guilty about something else. You know what? Address that guilt and stop allowing someone to take advantage of you. Something that I've used recently twice, Lynn, which I always tell my clients to do, and I've never done it myself, is when somebody offends you or you're upset with somebody and you don't, it's always difficult to have that conversation. There's something we call an I feel conversation that you have with somebody, and that is when we say to somebody, when you do X, Y, and Z, I feel A, B, and C. What I need from you is D, E, and F. That's it, and let it go. To give you an example, a friend of mine recently, I invited him for lunch for his birthday, and he said, "Okay, I'll get back to you I'll get back to you." I mean, it was the Saturday, and the next Saturday was supposed to be the lunch, and he didn't. So the lunch didn't happen. And then I was upset, and he mailed me or messaged me 2 weeks later and said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I said, "I'm actually upset with you because when you say you'll come back to me with an invitation that I extended to you and you don't come back to me, I feel rejected. I feel as if I'm not important in your life. And I feel that you're ungrateful. What I needed from you was to honor my invitation. And the least you could have done was to let me know that you can't do it." That's it. My feeling of resentment, of anger is out of my body. He knows how I feel, where I stand, and that's it. I don't expect anything more from him. I arrived authentically. I'm upset with you, and that's okay.
I think also a very important topic on this is anger. And it's interesting because, like, I've grown up, and I don't know if it's society or my parents or who it is, but I have grown up with this deep feeling that anger is wrong. Must get angry.
Absolutely.
But why can't I get angry if somebody 2 times me, or if someone backstabs me? I'm allowed to be angry. Anger is fine. It's how you deal with it and how you cope with it. And if you use that strategy of I feel when that lets it out in an appropriate way.
Yeah. Because then what happens in life is the analogy I use is, so now I'm angry at my friend. So with that anger, I pick up a stone and I put it in my pocket. So I go through life carrying this stone. Every time I sit, this stone pushes into my hip. It's uncomfortable, but I carry this bloody stone with me. And then in another week's time, I'm angry at somebody else. Another stone in my pocket, and another one, and another one, and another. And eventually, I go through life being dragged down by all the stones I carry with me. And I can't show up, and I'm unhappy, and I feel low, and I feel heavy. Why? Because you're carrying all these bloody stones with you. So I call it drop the rock. Drop those stones. Let it go. Tell the people. I felt what I needed from you was, or I need from you is. The same with guilt and shame. If you feel guilty about something, and that's the steps 8 and 9 of the 12 steps, is when you feel guilty or ashamed, go own your shit. Go say, "Dude, I buggered up. I'm really sorry about this. What can I do to fix it?" You walk out of there guilt-free, shame-free. You've dropped another few rocks. And suddenly, after a few weeks of doing this, you feel, "Oh my word, I'm feeling light. I actually wake up in the mornings and I feel alive. I don't feel like I can't go through life." We arrive with life being light and energetic.
But what I want to add to that, Freddie, and I think some of the moms are going to relate to this, Well, I hope you do, because if it's just me, I'm going to be very embarrassed.
Something for your guilt box.
You talk about that little stone that you hold. So for me, I think of it like a pressure cooker. And every time I see a little stone that I hold, my pressure cooker gets a little bit fuller and fuller and fuller and fuller and fuller. And then what happens is something happens that's not even that big, but this pressure cooker can't take that tiny little extra thing, and I just explode, whether it's at my husband or my kids, whatever. And it's just like, and everybody's like, what happened?
Where did that come from?
And that's what I've been working on this year.
Absolutely.
Is my pressure cooker. Let's not let that thing explode. And how you do that is you got to keep letting the air out. You know, when your pressure cooker is starting to like hiss, and you push that button and you let the air out, you got to let the air out nice and slowly and regularly. You can't just let that thing keep going until it explodes.
Yeah. Or if you find difficulty to think of carrying a stone in your pocket, think of a little stone in your shoe.
Oh.
How irritating that little stone in your shoe is. And that's what we do. That's what we do with our souls. We keep on putting little stones in the shoes of our souls and wonder why we feel heavy and irritated and agitated and sore and raw.
Yeah,
get rid of the bloody stone. Kick it out of your shoe and carry on.
Horatius got a pressure cooker problem as well. I mean, I'm not glad you have that problem. I'm glad that I'm not alone in my problem. Because it's bad.
Absolutely.
And I feel so, and you know what the thing is, afterwards, I feel so sick inside. I feel so bad for being such a oh, Candace. Yeah, exactly. And I feel rotten, you know, and I think part of what I do is once I've calmed down and I feel that shame and I feel that weight, I go and I apologize and I try and make it right. And I think that's a really important, you know, thing to do, because otherwise you sit with that.
Yeah, you carry the stone.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Cool.
So there's absolutely no reason to go through life carrying all these stones. We can drop those rocks. Absolutely can drop those rocks.
Is there anything else we want to add on the 12 steps? Maybe a spiritual awakening, what that's like? Step 12?
So I just quickly want to run through the rest of steps. So in steps 4 and 5, we identify the issues that we're struggling with. In step 6 and 7, we go through a process of letting go that stuff that we struggle with. One of the most important and impressive days of my life was when in step 7 I sat with a list of what are the issues that I struggle with in my life and what are the opposites that I can do. A friend of mine calls them the graces. These are the problems, these are the graces. I call them spiritual principles. These are the problems, these are the spiritual principles. And a simple example is self-pity. Oh God, I used to wallow in self-pity. The opposite of self-pity is gratitude. If you feel sorry for yourself, instead of indulging that self-pity, write a gratitude list. See what you've got to be grateful for. So that's what we do in step 6 and 7. In step 8 and 9, we're actually going to look at all the people whom we have harmed in our lives. So all those rocks that we carry, we put a name on each one of those rocks. And then we go to those people and say, I did that to you. I'm sorry. How can I fix it? Fix it. Drop that rock. Do it the next time. Drop that rock. Drop that rock. And suddenly you find out that, oh wow, okay, I'm actually quite light and happy. Then in step 10, so that's step 8 and 9. In step 10, all we do is now we keep on checking in with ourselves. And we say daily inventory. Daily inventory. Every night when I go to bed, okay, so this worked today, that didn't work today. I must do more of this and less of that. That's step 10. Step 11 is that we try and keep in contact with ourselves and with this higher entity. Now, for people who really struggle with this concept of a higher power, a concept of God, I've got this. I was so chuffed with myself today that I figured this out. There was a 16-year-old girl who got abandoned by both her parents. And she just said, I can't believe in God. I can't believe in any entity. There's nothing caring for me. Yeah, okay. Do you care for yourself? Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's work on the concept of a higher self. So what I mean by that is this is where Freddy is. This is where I want to be. So every decision that I make in my life, I question, is what I'm going to do now going to take me away from this, or is it going to move me closer to this? And all I need to do is make decisions that will bring me closer to my higher self. So eventually my higher self becomes my higher power. Yeah. And that really works. If I shout at this person, is it going to make me feel like crap? Yeah. So that takes me away from my higher self. If I calm down and then go and confront the person calmly, will it bring me closer to my higher self? Obviously. So do the right thing. So that's step 11. We start to meditate and we start to talk to ourselves. We start to pray. We do all those type of beautiful things. And step 12 is just a concept of we start living what we've discovered. We go through life, and if somebody says, "Wow, you look happy," you say, "Yeah, I've discovered this amazing thing. I've dropped rocks. I can go through life without the shame, and this is how I've done it. And I practice. I do it everywhere in my life, and that's it. That's the 12 steps."
I think when I first did the 12 steps, I was thinking that there's going to be this miraculous spiritual awakening that just like you finish writing you put the last dot on your 12 step, and like little sparkling lights and unicorns and rainbows come out. And that didn't happen. But over the last 13 years, I've seen the miraculousness of it. It has been a miracle. It has been, I mean, not like glitter and stuff coming out immediately, but if I look back on the whole picture and the whole process, there's like a continuous spiritual growth that happens all the time. And I think an important part of recognizing that is what you've said. Sorry about that. Oh, it's it is the kind of the gratitude of looking back and saying, what have I achieved? If you're not going to do a gratitude list and you're not going to focus on gratitude, I find then you sit in a mindset of I'll be happy when, rather than look what I've got and I am happy now.
Absolutely. I always think of that song. Probably most of you are far too young to remember the song "Love the One You're With." If you can't be the one with the one you love the one you're with. And that I always think of that. We always think, I'll be happy when. No. Yes. Today's the day. Embrace whatever tiny little piece of happiness that you can find. And if you manage today to find that little happiness, then today you've had a spiritual awakening. Every time that we manage to do something slightly different, slightly better for ourselves, slightly self-care-ish, that's a spiritual awakening. Each one of those little things. It's not a kabam, there you are, you're the Dalai Bloody Lama. No. Every little change, every little aspect of our lives that we take responsibility for, do better, every rock that we drop, those are all little spiritual awakenings. And we have them every day. All we need to do is go through life with open eyes.
I like that. And I think it's about, you can't go from here and move up here with your mental health. It does not work like that. It's kind of like it goes up, but it's like a jiggle if you constantly work on it. And with regards to the self-care and the self-love and putting yourself first, I speak for myself, but I think I speak for most of the moms watching this. I have found it incredibly hard as a mom to put my needs first and to not be selfish, but to conduct myself with self-love. And this year has been my year really focusing on self-care and bubble baths and resting and putting myself first. And it was hard in the beginning. It was hard to say, like, I shouldn't be having a bubble bath. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I should be doing the dishes. The house is dirty. The floor's dirty. This. And I was so horrible to myself. But I had my bubble bath. Yeah. And you know what? The next day when I had it, that mom guilt was a little bit less. Now I'm like, the kids are going to Opa for the day because I'm doing a live video. I'm going to bubble bath. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I have spent the 1 week, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I had a massage. I had my eyelashes and my eyebrows tinted. I had my hair cut. All in 1 week. I went for a 15K hike that I've been wanting to do for the last 10 years. It's the hike in the West Coast National Park that's only open for 2 months a year. And every year I've missed it because my husband doesn't want to go and because the kids and this and this and this and this. This year I'm like, I want to go on this hike and I'm just going to do it. And I mean, in 1 week, I did all of these self-care things and it felt amazing. There was no guilt. And it was the most beautiful thing ever. So if you start small now, just do something small for yourself at the beginning of every day. And I mean, I know when you've got a baby and a toddler and you're at home and it's lockdown, it can be seriously overwhelming. But if you can find just to take 5 minutes for yourself, wherever you can get it, and do something nice for yourself, something you really want to do, it will make such a big impact in your life over a period of time when you start building on that.
Exactly. Lynn, I just want to comment on you used the word should. I've taught myself there are 5 words in my life that I'm not allowed to use. Would, could, should, always, and never. Those 5 words keeps me prisoner of either the future or the past, or in guilt, or in shame, or in hysteria. The minute you use the word, you always say that. You lie. Life is always against me. You lie. Then frankly, your spiritual awakening today is to realize, oh my God, I'm a liar. Nothing ever good happens to me. It's never the case. That's not true. It might be the case that it's often that way, but it's not always that way. So maybe today your spiritual awakening is that you're actually a liar.
But the power of words is huge.
The power of words is immense. Change the narrative.
I would take time for myself. I would have my bubble bath. I would spend the entire time not enjoying it, thinking, I should do this. I should do that. I shouldn't be in the bath taking time for myself because this. So
that word is robbing you of that moment. Don't allow that one word to rob you of this moment.
Exactly. But I've started saying I should be in the bath. I should be looking after myself, and I am doing it. I am doing this, and just changing the way that I think has been huge. But it's the process of making, like you say, make that appointment. I'm going to do this for myself, and setting that time aside and doing it no matter what, and enjoying the process. And as I've built it up, I can't wait to see what next year brings.
Yeah. And also, nobody says go lie in the bath for an hour. Run the bath. It's wonderful if you can. It's absolutely wonderful if you can. But it's also no need to lie in the bath for an hour and feel so guilty. So rather do 5 minutes and say to yourself, I'm taking 5 minutes and then I'll go and do the washing. Then I'll start the ironing. But I'm taking 5 minutes for myself.
Yeah.
Start small. We're not going to run a marathon after we've done 1 2K run. It's not going to happen. We train for a marathon. I call it spiritual fitness. We just do it more and more and more. We get fitter and fitter as we do, and it gets easier and easier as we go along.
Yeah. We've got, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, Shamsunisa. She finds it hard to find time for herself with her son of 8 months because she doesn't like leaving him with anybody. Look, I can totally relate. I'm the type of mom where I am with my kids almost all the time. They're 7 years old and 9 years old. I live with my sister-in-law, my parents, school, my father-in-law, my husband, of course. But my list ends there, basically. So, and they like I said, my daughter's turning 10 this year. So, and when you've got an 8-month-old child, it's not easy to leave your baby with anybody else. So find a way to, don't say, well, I can't because I've got this baby and I can't leave my baby anywhere. Find a way. And like I've already said, if you've got a baby, you've got a toddler, it's going to be close to impossible to find periods of time for yourself, but it's close to. It's not impossible. You can do it. So just try come up with some ways that you can, have a bit of time for yourself. And I know it's really hard. Everybody's got the sleep in baby sleeps. Hello. It doesn't always work out that way. But just find a period of time that you can, even if it's just 5 minutes, do something for yourself, and that will feed into this whole process.
Also, a good thing will be to question kind of where does why do you have the belief system that your child's only safe with you?
Yeah, but I have that, and I think
but you probably know where it comes from. We've done a lot of work on that, and a lot of time we think that we are the only person who can do a job. That's not true.
Yeah, I do believe that, Freddie, but when my son was 8 months old, up until he was 13 months, he didn't stay anywhere. He stayed with me, and normally on my boob, or with my husband for a period of time, and I think perhaps if she's a single mom, and I think in this day and age, it's not the same as when we were kids. It's just a fact, Dom,
So what we do then is we invite the friend and say, come for a cup of tea, and while the friend is there, look after my child for 5 minutes. I'm going to have that bath.
You have a good point.
You even leave the door open, but have that bath.
But I think now with the way of the world, I think things are a lot more unsafe, and also COVID.
Yeah, but then the one thing that I've discovered is where there's a will, there's a way. We will find a way.
Yeah, you do have to find that 5 minutes. However you achieve that, I think it's important to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you got other moms saying that they're so stressed about kids. Yeah. Candace doesn't even.
I'm definitely not saying drop your child away to a stranger. Absolutely not.
Yeah, no, totally. Oh, shame, man. Still recovering from being hospitalized.
I think I saw something that you're still in bed. Stay in bed if you can, and that's self-care. Listen to your body. It's important.
Yeah, Curatio also, it's a situation right now. Look, I think right now is a great time if you're keen to get started on the 12 steps, because COVID is such a mental health stress and, a source of anxiety. We all are at this time struggling with so much more than we would under normal circumstances, and normal circumstances are hard enough. So I think it's a really good time to kind of, get into the 12 steps.
If not now, when?
Yeah, exactly.
If not now, when? Today's a good day to make a healthy decision for yourself.
100%. Cool. So I think we maybe wrap it up.
Let's do that. This was absolutely awesome. I had such a good time chatting with you all. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, it was wonderful, Freddie. I think the last video we did was last year at the beginning of the pandemic.
Are you serious? Oh my word.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
But it's about time that you put up again.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we've got a winner for Freddie's book, Life Anon. I've chosen Curatio Kutsia. If you can just inbox me on my Facebook page with your email address, and then I'll connect you guys. I will come into comments at some stage later and, add in the link to buy the book from Freddie's website. And yeah, I will be creating a blog post, and I will connect with you ladies tomorrow morning. We're going to go live. I'm just going to give you a little sneak preview. There's going to be a number of competitions, which are going to be really, really awesome, including another giveaway for Freddie's book, Life Anon.
Cool. And I will post that book via Postnet. So all I need is your telephone number and your nearest Postnet. Awesome. Cool. It was so awesome meeting you all. Hanging with the girls and some boys, I hope. This was really cool. Thank you so much, Lynn. Thanks for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. Thanks. Cheers, everyone.
See ya.